Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media. You're going to be listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. For 6 decades, doing great things for folks living in San Diego County, whether it's food insecurity, homeless. They work very, very closely with the schools, in the arts, and so forth. If it's a major cause, they are there shoulder to shoulder. So pleased to have back in the studio with us today the CEO of Connect, James Zanewicz. How you doing there, James?
I'm great. Glad to be back. It's been way too long.
It's been way too long. We're going to correct that as well. And Connect, which is an iconic group in San Diego, I've been honored to have been working with it, believe it or not, about 30 years ago when Mary was running the show, Walshock, at that time. Just a great
Mary still runs the show. She still does it from behind the scenes.
100%. 100%. Bless her heart. Joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. How you doing, Kristen?
I'm doing well.
You remember how to be a co-host?
I think so.
You're
Give you a hard time, learn some things about the
I
guest.
love this.
Rinse and repeat. Yes.
You're absolutely spot on that, so why don't you get started with the question for James?
Let's do it. Why don't you just start off by telling us about the mission of Connect?
Yeah, the mission to connect, and this is something we've really crystallized since last time I was here, so I'm excited to talk about it. We spent a lot of time doing a listening tour. We're sort of starting to understand that when I was here in December, but now we really have it down, and it is in its simplest form to support entrepreneurs on their journey and to amplify their story, but that all boils down to pathways, proof, and platform. And what that means is in listening to what San Diego needs now, which is sort of the 3.0 of Connect. The 1.0 was 1985 when it started inside UCSD. It was the only accelerator in the world before that word existed to help companies and move forward. Then flash forward 20 years, 2005 spins out of UCSD into the independent nonprofit it is today. Dwayne Roth did a lot of amazing things, started a lot of organizations to support innovation in the ecosystem. Biocom, Clean Tech, Athena, support women in the C-suite. Many of those started inside Connect. All those did. And then many were started by people who had worked for or around Connect, inspired by it. So now 41 years in, you're an innovation vertical entrepreneur. You come out, you have 300 plus places that say they're here to help you. Every single one except for Connect wants cash, equity, or is sort of beholden to one organization, which may have some altruism behind it, but usually there's a purpose in addition to that. Connect does not have that. And so what Pathways means is we support entrepreneurs on their journey. We treat every one of those 300 organizations in San Diego as our program. Our program is no longer just what we offer, it's what everyone offers. So we can give the advice about when to go, when to give up equity, when to get cash, when to hire a service provider at the right moments. Proof means that we're helping to basically instill credibility in both the companies we support by re-elevating the brand of Connect, so that when people see they've gone through that pathway process with us, they've been challenged, they've been guided, and they perhaps have stewarded their money better, so they're a better investment when investors are looking at it. But the same goes for our board. Our board self-selects. We're a pay-to-play board, but also the board does say no to people if they don't feel they have San Diego's best interest in mind. So when someone's looking to hire someone who's on our board as a service provider or to do business with them, if it's a collaborator, they can see that already a level of diligence has been done. So our board has credibility as well. And the last bit is platform, which why we love doing podcasts like this, why we love positioning our companies at conferences, in press releases, and in the Connect Current podcast that we have started since I was last year, really to amplify the story of San Diego. We're very Australian here. We don't stand too tall on the poppies. We try not to tell our story and to let people figure it out. And that doesn't work when you have places like Austin and Miami out there blasting their stories. And so we're trying to solve that problem as well.
So it's been a year,
Yeah.
and or getting to be a year, correct?
It'd be a year. August 1st. I had 2 jobs that month. So do we say August 1st, September 1st? I don't know.
It's close enough. That in horseshoes. So how has it been? Obviously, here you're getting the job. We are the 8th largest city in the country, but we, some ways, it could be like the smallest big city.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Anybody who's spent any time there says that. Has it met your expectations? Has it exceeded your expectations? Is it, boy, totally different than you thought? Or no, this is what I felt? Or somewhere in between?
No, I'd say it's exceeded my expectations, and that you come into a large city, and my previous West Coast experience was LA. And while I loved my job, I love LA. LA and DC are a little more transactional cities because of entertainment and politics. San Diego is much more like a Louisville or a New Orleans, both former homes of mine, where people care more about helping each other than taking for themselves. And that's unusual for a city of this size and with these resources. So it's amazing to come in and get to be in an ecosystem that functions in the way those bigger small towns do, because San Diego is a major city, but in many respects a big small town. We treat each other that way, but there are so many toys to play with here to be able to actually accomplish things and transform the human life and human experience, that it's just amazing. And I'll say too, the team at Connect that we had a few people still in place that we've been able to recruit is absolutely incredible. Like, I am beyond blessed to get to work with people who are so excited to come in and transform the city every day.
Talk about the collaborative nature of San Diego County, and of course, when I say that, I mean south of the border as well. We are one region, and you guys know that better than anybody. You guys have been trailblazers in that area ever since '85, for that matter. But talk about the collaborative nature of San Diego as it pertains to how you've experienced it and how it works with Connect.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've experienced this, but also we've also heard stories from companies and other people we've worked with in the ecosystem where folks who will come in from other ecosystems and are shocked at how their competition will make suggestions for them that is often not necessarily in their competition's best interest, but they're like, hey, we want everyone to succeed here, and it's the rising tide that lifts all boats. I'd say here from my perspective, I've been really fortunate. We're figuring out how to better financially support Connect and come up with new budget lines. And I'm giving a huge shout out to Tim Scott at Biocom. He was like, hey, you hired someone who has this skill set that I want to teach my staff. I will pay you for that. And then you can turn that into a product that you can charge to other people as well. And you can trial it with us, and we'll support you financially in doing that. And you don't find that in a lot of organizations or a lot of places. And I think San Diego's always had this culture, but I think it's a really unique moment in time where the leadership of a lot of organizations, any friction that was ever there, we're all saying that's out the window. It doesn't matter. We all have to work together to be able to compete in this global economy.
Yeah. There's no question about that. Were you going to say something, Kristen?
Yeah, no. I always get geeked out by programs, so I'm
curious
to hear some more about some of these programs that you're stoked about.
Yeah, so we have 2 main programs at Connect right now. A few more coming up, but Springboard and then Cool Companies. Springboard has been the program where around late seed Series A, any company could fill out a form. Dr. Peter Stegman will look at that, say, okay, here are 4 people who can give you advice, assemble them to give feedback. Usually that was for funding at that point. We're now expanding that and kind of blowing that up to you can come in super early as a company or super late stages. We used to say this is not a phase for Connect. It's still not a phase where Connect is active, but it's the phase where we'll say, hey, you should go to the Brink at this point at USD, or this is a moment to go to Evo Nexus, or this is a moment to go to Aquilas, or you are now large enough, you should join Biocom and pay the membership fee because you're going to get advocacy and a discount that is going to more than pay for that. But that's what Springboard is moving to become in every vertical in life science, tech, climate, defense, AI, binational health, any innovation vertical that an entrepreneur in those innovation places can know, hey, if I go to Connect, they will get me connected where I need to go, which is the pun. Cool Companies is the program we've had going back to the days of the San Diego Venture Group, with merged with Connect in 2019, and it selects the up to 30 best companies ready for Series A in the city, and then positions them 3 times throughout the year in front of VCs, twice privately, once publicly at our summer social, which I was pleased to say was the largest we've ever had this year. We had 550 registrants. It was crazy.
Yeah.
super fun. And then the new program we're looking at that I was just referencing is going to be called Connect Core. It is loosely based on the iCore programs, which teaches people how to do marketing research. Basically, go out and talk to 100 folks and find out what your customer actually wants before you finish building the product. And Dr. Kiana Miyamoto on our team is designing that for some of the folks at Biocom, and then is going to roll that out to the community after we do our trial.
You know, what I love about the comment you just made, and things are, usually so simplistic when you really think about it. And the example I've used, Kristen has heard me say it before, well, the wheel, 3000 BC, luggage probably 2nd century, and we didn't put the wheel on the luggage till 1970. Serious, right? It's right in front of us. How about we ask our customers what they want? The industry I used to be in was notorious for not doing that until it realized it was losing customers, and that's the newspaper business. Only play in town, you're going to have to advertise with us until you don't advertise with us, and then you're in trouble. It's a simple concept.
It is.
But you have to have a culture and a leader at that culture that understands it. Talk about that.
Well, I think, too, you have to have patience because we did that when I came in. And you can't just come in and say, hey, here's a vision. People keep asking me, and I'm like, well, I don't know yet. I haven't talked to the community to figure out what is needed. I have ideas. But that's a balance because the community then can say, well, what have you done? Because you have to be intentional to take time to figure out what you should do. Then it takes time to implement and to hire and everything else and hire the right people. We've heard that Summit Connect that, well, what did you do for the last year? Well, we did a lot of work. It was just behind the scenes. And now you're starting to see the public aspects roll out. You saw how successful Summer Social was. We're talking about Connect Core. You're seeing our directors of life science and our director of tech and defense out there because we shifted to vertical directors instead of people who run programs so that they can come together and run a program, but they're going deep into their industry verticals and becoming more useful for the companies out there. And then this fall, Idea Week is blowing up and exploding. We've had several people move their events into that week. It's the week of October 19th. For folks who are curious, go to the website sandiegoisbetter.com. Best website in the world.
Totally.
Connect has a couple events. UCSD does, SDSU. The Licensing Executive Society International meeting just happens to be here that week. I wish I could take credit for it. That works out. La Jolla Playhouse does their Innovation Night. Children's Museum and Maritime Museum are working on some activation. So, it's going to be kind of our version of South by or Davos in San Diego, where it's kind of a choose your own adventure. Come to San Diego that week, sign up for what you want to, go enjoy the beach otherwise, but it's a great way to come in and do things.
Absolutely. We're chatting with James Zanewicz is the CEO of Connect. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast, brought to you by the fine folks of Mission Fed Credit Union, joined by co-host Kristen Fogel. She's the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. Other questions you have for James, Kristen?
Always, all day. What is some of the feedback that you've been getting from some of these organizations? What are some sort of stories that have stood out to you about yes, this, we are making impact. Tell us some of those.
Yeah, it's that people are excited about our presence in the community again, because I think Drew and I talked about this last time when I got here, but the piece of feedback that was more traumatizing for me when I got here was that we had forgotten our name. Oof. Our name is Connect. Yeah, oof, right?
Yeah.
And that was because COVID happened and the team went virtual in 2022. And so I'm really pleased to say that as of almost 2 weeks ago, we have a second location. We have our office downtown at Park and Market. We have a second location at Kiln in Rancho Bernardo. So our North County team now has an office to go to where, at least 3 days a week, people are out of their homes and they're available for folks. And I still want to offer the flexibility because, the way the world has gone, you want to offer flexibility. You want people to be able to spend family time. And in the office can be from 10 to 2, where you then take a break and take care of your kids, then come back. I have my COO, Gretel. She's phenomenal. Was on CEO recently. But Gretel and I, when she agreed to take the job, she's like, I want to take 3:30 to 5:30, 6:30 for my daughter every day. Then I'll come back on and work at night. And I'm like, I don't get your job done. I don't care.
Yeah.
But we have that kind of flexibility to connect, and I think we're able to do that because we're a small team, but we're a team that takes care and covers each other. And we've heard how much people like that, because I think then you get availabilities at different times. It suits different entrepreneurs' schedules. I'm happy to meet on weekends as well with folks, and I think just getting to that customer service model. I come out of working at Kmart for years and years and just instilling that. And I've been really, really pleasantly surprised, even with our youngest team members, how much they crave that as well.
Well, I think that if you can engender the sort of trust in your team and your community and things like that, it always drives me crazy. If we trust our employees and everything a little bit more, I think that they will rise to the challenge.
100%.
You know,
They always do.
I think that's so important.
Yeah. We come back from break. We're going to continue the conversation with James Zanewicz, CEO of Connect. We'll talk about more about Idea Week, talk about sort of all the storytelling they're doing, really dig deep into this unbelievable innovative culture that we have in this region, to say the least. And as James knows, based on the first time he was here, what can our listeners do to help support the great work of Connect when we return after this very short break?
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. So honored to have back in the studio with us today James Zanewicz. He is the CEO of Connect, joined by co-host Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers Inc. It's all about storytelling. And as you were talking about before, and no pun intended, the connection, of course. And people have to sort of get out of their offices to connect and do all that. But talk about the storytelling aspect.
Yeah, I'd actually like to refer to it as story making more than storytelling, which we may have talked about last time.
Right.
This is something I learned doing marketing, PR, that kind of stuff for Tulane School of Medicine as well. Is storytelling is great because you're telling the story, you're telling what happened, but story making is when you keep your North Star in mind. And our North Star is the entrepreneur's journey and amplifying their story. And so with everything we do, we want to help with that. And we've started doing press releases for free for our companies and people in the community since we started talking. And, it's a nonprofit press release because those are the ones that are free. They have ads on them. They don't look as fancy, but when you put it on LinkedIn for content, it looks the same when you write it and gives you a legitimate press release. And we've actually had companies and a venture fund that we did who got press in the Business Journal and the local newspaper out of those releases because they got enough attention. They got additional media, which is our goal, to help amplify their story. And so that's what I think it's about, is really keeping in mind what is your mission, and any story you're telling should feed into that.
Right. Talk about your work with the amazing universities that we have in this region.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It's interesting. I want to tell a great story about the Connect board right now. So I was just at Point Loma Nazarene University yesterday and was sitting with Mathieu. And Mathieu's been on our board, has gone through our XEO program, which is another program that trains future leaders. It's one we're retooling this fall. We'll come back next year. But Mathieu was telling me how he was sitting by someone from a company who had said, I only hire students from UCSD. That's where I went. Students from the liberal arts schools, they get coddled a little more at the liberal arts schools. It's not as large. They don't have to fight as much. And he has now convinced this company to hire their first intern from Point Loma Nazarene.
Nice.
That literally happened the morning I was there meeting with him for lunch. But that happened because they met at the Connect board. And so it's so much more about the connections you can get through the board as well, which is why I tell people it's worth joining the board. We actually are doing in-person board meetings now that are more active and have more intentional information, because no one wants to hear me talk at them for 10 minutes and then just go hang out. We actually have brought in the Prebis Foundation to talk at our last board, 2 of our companies to talk about how Connect has supported them on the way, but also what do they still need? Because this community succeeds by supporting each other.
Right. Talk about if you do have a relationship with, and I'm sure you do, with Lead San Diego. And it's the group that's with the chamber, of course. You talked about future leaders, of course. There's not too many people that have bounced around San Diego that haven't gone through Lead. Do you work with Lead at all?
Not terribly much. I mean, we're familiar with them.
Yeah.
We know of the program. We don't have a formal collaboration yet.
Yeah.
But my team and I know the people who are helping to run that. So,
right.
So yes, in a way, we do work with. We're looking at leadership and future leadership development. A lot of folks on the younger levels. So like SD Squared. We have one of our amazing interns, Nico, came through them, worked with us, went away, did his first year at college, is back this summer, working with us again, and he produces work at the level of a professional, and we're trying to figure out how can we pull together a committee, and Matt, you and I were brainstorming on this, and it's like perhaps him, Hala, perhaps someone from UCSD, a couple companies, to get H from SD Squared done, but figure out how can we create that pathway. And I like saying pathway more than pipeline, because pathways diverge and can always come back, and pipelines get leaky and get lost. So that's why I was trained by this by one of my folks at Tulane. She's like, never say pipeline, always say pathway, because pathways, you can always get your way back home. Pipelines, once you're out, you're sort of out.
Yeah.
But we want to figure out how can we do that. Well, it's not our primary mission. We have many people who are passionate about that. And if that then supports the entrepreneurs, because they have these incredible local talents that they can bring into their companies who are likely to stay and not leave, that does play into our mission as well.
One of the things that we've talked about before, and it's still a head scratcher a little bit, not easier said than done, is getting more of the younger folks involved and sit on the boards or the community committees of the nonprofits. Depending on which study you're using, we have between 8,000 to 12,000 nonprofits, and throw a dart in there in between and all that aspect of it. But we always marvel, and Kristen knows I've been heavily involved with the Classroom of the Future Foundation since its inception in '97. And we beg people to replace us on the board. We don't want to have it. We really don't want to have, come on. Talk about that, how critical it is to get the young folks involved.
It's really important, and I think ways you can do that, because often the young folks don't have the ability to write the check if it's a pay-for-play board. But what you can do, and what we're moving to, is you can establish committees where if they're not on the board, get your folks on the board to get one of their junior people on the committee, so they train up, they learn about the organization. That's best for the organization too, because for any nonprofit out there, if you're not cultivating the next generation, when you lose that senior person, you might lose all your support, because you haven't built organizational support,
100%.
you've built individual support. And it's the kind of thing that I think we saw it connect a little bit over the last year, where with the transition, and not having a CEO or COO for about 8 months before I came in, there were some questions for folks, and some people did move on and change jobs in those organizations. Then we lost at Connect because there wasn't a deeper understanding of the value of the organization, I would say, and that is our fault as much as anyone else's. And so we're working on how do we do more of that. And I think committees, activations, salons and solicitations where you bring in different voices to hear from them are the way to do that. Right.
Kristen?
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about some of these organizations. What type of organization do they need to be at a certain stage in their development? Who are you sort of looking for? And
who we help? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So any innovation vertical company at any stage, we will help guide them through San Diego. And by innovation, it's what people more consider biotech, high tech, defense. The things that people consider kind of the science or tech companies are who we actively help. Now, if someone else finds their way to us, one of the things that I'm really proud of that I always talk about on these is that Connect is a member of the SDBC network, or the Small Business Development Corp network. There's a network of 10 in San Diego. 4 are specialty, 3 are kind of high innovation support. 6 are for what people consider more, your regular everyday companies, your services, your restaurants, your things like that. But we can get anyone who shows up to us, if they're not a fit for us, we can get them to the front door of someone who is. And all those SDBC services are free. It's free support for these companies where they can get an advisor in different areas at different times. Like if they need a marketing advisor, they can get one. If they need one for business, how to incorporate. Say they have HR issues. All those things are available for free through the SDBC network. And San Diego is incredible to have one of the strongest in the country. And we're incredibly blessed to be one who's part of that in that specialty realm where we have the Brink that does very early stage companies. You have us who then kind of picks up at seed Series J. And then when they're looking at international interactions, you have the World Trade Center at the EDC who then can help them import or export or come up with those types of things. And it's this really virtuous life cycle that most cities don't have.
Talk a little more about Idea Week. And, you mentioned...
He doesn't want to. He's not enthused by it yet. Let's just leave it alone, Drew.
I'm excited.
Is it week of the 19th of October?
Week of the 19th of October, yeah.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so this is one, and we're still working out what we might do with Cloudcast, and I have ideas.
Ooh.
Maybe we could work together.
We
to
love
bring
ideas.
Back. Well, it's funny. If you've been on our Slack channel yesterday, because I was like, I'm going in tomorrow. How do you guys feel about pitching them about maybe bringing back the most innovative product awards, and we could do the innovative products, and they could do some community awards, and do
fun.
it all together that week.
MIP
no pressure,
awards.
y'all.
Oh my goodness.
And sponsored by Cloudcast Media. I mean, that just makes sense. Then you get instant podcast guests, the winners. So
which we used to have when we started this a long time ago.
Oh, I like this. Maybe we work together and bring it back. But Idea Week Kylie Hovey came up with a name. And Kylie was a former Connect team member. We were her first job out of college. So, of course, she got stolen and paid way more money by a marketing agency because she came up with great things like this: innovation, discovery, expression, and art. It is a week where Connect helps facilitate a joint calendar where people can say, hey, I want to have my event on here. They can be events that are free. They can be events that are for charge. Of course, ours are more innovation focused, but we also want expression. We want art. Kicks off with the La Jolla Playhouse Innovation Night on Monday night, where it's their fundraiser for the Playhouse, but also has that innovation bent. Tuesday, UCSD is doing their MedTech Seed Stage Investment Conference. Wednesday, we're going to have our first ever Founders Forum, which we're excited about, and it's to help train founders on things they didn't get to know or don't get trained on by other folks. We had one of our founders who had done well say, hey, I could have done my trust to take care of my family for about $1,000 if I had done it before I hit big. It cost me $250,000 for the same amount of work after I hit big, and no one advises you that. It seems like $1,000 seems like a lot of money. He's like, but if someone had told me it'll be $250,000, he's like, even when you hit, you don't have $250,000 laying around. He's like, and it literally is the exact same work. It's just because there's more money, costs you more.
Wow.
But things like that are what we're going to roll into there. And Dr. Peter Stegman is like envisioning what that means. And that'll probably be from like 8:30 to 2:30-ish on that Wednesday. That evening, we'll always have our private venture summit. Again, our cool companies get put in front of VCs who are deploying Series A capital in a really small, intimate environment. It's at a private home, really great networking. So we'll have that Wednesday night. Thursday, I know that Abu from Biolabs is partnering with the SDAC, the Angel Group, to do something joint as far as investment there, perhaps a golden ticket again. They're working out what that is. Friday, maybe we do something with Cloudcast. There are a whole bunch of other things potentially coming in. I know the Children's Museum and Maritime Museum are looking at activations of some sort, which, they're hurting because tourism is down. And this is a way to perhaps get people in the city and get people in their doors and help the arts as well, because without supporting innovation, often the people who are successful in innovation companies are the people who come out and then donate and support the arts. So they are so inextricably tied, and that creativity often spurs the technical or biological innovation because you've relaxed and stimulated your brain in a different way. And I see those ties as so inherently important that we always want to incorporate that into our events as well.
Yeah, there's no question about it, and we all know what type of an economic driver the arts have been and will continue to be, as with the nonprofits. Got about a couple more minutes to go, James. What can our listeners do to support Connect besides get engaged, come to these events, go to Idea Week, contribute, whatever?
Yeah, every nonprofit always says money's always very helpful. Anyone who believes in the mission, believes in San Diego, reach out to myself, reach out to Liz Dargy. It's Lizbeth, Lizbeth, at connect.org, or James at connect.org, either one of us. But if you don't have the funds to support, you can support through time, talent, that kind of stuff. If you have done this or have a skill, if it's marketing, if it's, hey, I've done a business or I've invested, and you're willing to advise somebody else on that path, reach out. We'll get you in touch with Petra, or you can get in touch with Petra, Petra at connect.org. We're all first name at connect.org.com, or .org, first name at connect.org. And she has a list, and there are probably about 300-ish active people on it, but it's 2,000 to 3,000 people over the history of Connect who have advised companies that when a company comes in through Springboard and says, I have a problem, she can go look and say, here are 3 or 4 who might be able to help. And they hop on a Zoom for an hour. They can stay with that company longer and keep advising them, or they can do that hour and be done. Those are great ways to give back as well.
Yeah, shout out the website one more time.
Connect.org.
All right, and your email?
Is James at connect.org. Very simple.
Well, always appreciate you coming in. The content you provide is great. As you know, we want to continue to have you come in a minimum of once a quarter, maybe bring in some of these organizations that have benefited from what you're doing.
I love that,
That's a done deal. Consider that happening. We want to keep this momentum going on with Connect leading into ID Week, the week of October 19, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. James Zanewicz, he is the CEO of Connect. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. Listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by the fine folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. And as always, Kristen Fogel, co-host of our Spotlight show, and she's the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. Thanks for being on the co-pilot seat.
I'm glad to be back.
Absolutely. To our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.